In 841 AD, the Roman Empire made the worst mistake in gladiatorial history. They threw Ragnar Lothbrok into an arena with 50 trained killers, expecting entertainment. What they got was the bloodiest massacre Rome had ever witnessed, and a slave rebellion that nearly destroyed the empire. This isn't just a story about gladiatorial combat. This is about how one Viking warrior transformed Rome's greatest spectacle into their worst nightmare and turned their entertainment into revolution. The capture of Ragnar Lothbrok had been Rome's greatest triumph in decades. The legendary Viking king who had terrorized the northern territories for years was finally in chains, destined for the ultimate Roman punishment, death by entertainment in their grandest arena. Emperor Lothair believed he had secured the perfect spectacle, the most famous barbarian warrior facing Rome's finest gladiators in combat that would demonstrate Roman superiority to the world. The Colosseum had witnessed thousands of deaths, but never had it housed a prize like Ragnar Lothbrok. Rome's greatest arena was designed for spectacle, built for death, and perfected for the entertainment of citizens who demanded blood. The gladiators who fought here were professional killers, trained from childhood in every weapon, every technique, every method of dealing death that the empire could devise. But the Romans had made a fundamental miscalculation. They saw Ragnar as entertainment, an exotic beast to be displayed before slaughter. They didn't understand they were about to unleash something that would turn their greatest strength into their deadliest weakness. What they expected to be Rome's triumph would become Rome's terror. Vikings! If you want to witness the most brutal gladiatorial massacre in Roman history, strike that red shield. Join Ragnar in the arena and see how one warrior destroyed an empire's entertainment. Ragnar Lothbrok sat in the deepest dungeon beneath the Colosseum, chains binding his massive frame, but his spirit remained unbroken. His long, blonde braided hair, matted with the grime of captivity, couldn't conceal the piercing ice-blue eyes that still blazed with warrior fire. The Roman guards who brought him food spoke in whispers about the legendary prisoner. Some had fought against Vikings and knew firsthand the terror these northern warriors could unleash. Others had only heard stories, but the stories were enough to make them nervous. Ragnar's presence seemed to charge the very air with danger, even in chains. Emperor Lothair had planned the ultimate spectacle. The most famous barbarian king in the known world would face Rome's deadliest gladiators in combat, designed to demonstrate the superiority of Roman civilization over barbarian chaos. The emperor envisioned Ragnar's death as a symbol, the wild north finally tamed by Roman discipline, barbarian fury overcome by civilized training, chaos defeated by order. But Lothair had never faced a Viking in personal combat. He understood neither their psychology nor their capabilities. 50 of Rome's most skilled gladiators were assembled for this unprecedented event. These weren't ordinary fighters. They were the elite veterans of hundreds of arena battles, specialists in every form of combat the empire had perfected. Rhetari with their nets and tridents, Secutoris with sword and shield, Thracians with curved blades, Myrmilones with gladius and heavy armor. Every gladiatorial style was represented in this army of professional killers. Each gladiator had killed dozens of opponents. Together, they represented centuries of accumulated combat experience. 60,000 Roman citizens filled the Colosseum, their excitement reaching fever pitch. They had come to see the famous Viking king torn apart by professional gladiators, to witness barbarian arrogance humbled by Roman superiority. The crowd's bloodlust was palpable. They wanted death, they wanted spectacle, they wanted to see the legendary northern warrior reduced to entertainment for their amusement. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would haunt their nightmares forever. The arena floor was prepared with fresh sand to absorb the blood that was expected to flow freely. Weapons were arranged strategically around the fighting space. Swords, spears, nets, shields, everything needed for prolonged, spectacular combat. The underground machinery was tested and ready to provide additional challenges. Trapdoors, rising platforms, mechanical devices designed to enhance the entertainment value of death. This wasn't just an execution, it was theater, with death as the final act. In his cell, Ragnar prepared not for death, but for war. He had studied the gladiators through glimpses during his captivity, analyzed their fighting styles, identified their strengths and weaknesses. His mind, sharpened by decades of tactical thinking, was already formulating strategies. These Romans saw individual combat as sport. Ragnar saw it as warfare by other means. The difference between sport and war was about to become devastatingly clear when the gates opened and Ragnar Lothbrok stepped onto the arena sand. The crowd's roar shook the very foundations of the Colosseum. 60,000 voices screamed for his blood, their hatred washing over him like a physical force. But Ragnar walked into that maelstrom of hate with the calm confidence of a warrior entering his natural element. His massive frame filled the arena entrance. His blonde braided hair caught the Mediterranean sun, and his ice-blue eyes surveyed the killing ground with tactical precision. The crowd expected fear. Instead, they saw a predator evaluating prey. 50 gladiators arranged themselves in a perfect killing circle around the lone Viking warrior. Professional fighters, each a master of death, each confident in their superiority over this barbarian amateur. They moved with practiced precision, weapons ready, formations designed to overwhelm any individual opponent. This was Roman military thinking applied to arena combat. Systematic, disciplined, overwhelming. Ragnar stood in the center of this death circle, seemingly trapped, outnumbered 50 to 1. Facing professional killers with nothing but his bare hands. Emperor Lothair raised his hand. The crowd fell silent in anticipation, and then his thumb turned down. The signal for death, the signal for entertainment, the signal that would unleash the bloodiest massacre in Roman history. The gladiators advanced, confident in their numerical superiority, trained in coordinated combat, certain that this barbarian would provide good sport before dying. They had no idea they were advancing toward a force of nature that would redefine their understanding of warfare. The first gladiator died before he realized the fight had truly begun. Ragnar's massive hands closed around the man's throat with supernatural speed, crushing windpipe and breaking neck in a single fluid motion. The crowd gasped. The gladiators hesitated. This wasn't how arena combat was supposed to begin, with instant, brutal death delivered by bare hands. But Ragnar was already moving, snatching the dead gladiator's sword and shield, transforming from unarmed captive to fully equipped warrior in seconds. What happened next defied everything the Romans understood about combat. Ragnar moved with speed that seemed supernatural, striking with force that shattered shields, fighting with technique that transcended anything their gladiators had ever encountered. This wasn't arena combat. This was warfare condensed into personal violence. Every move served tactical purpose. Every strike eliminated threats. Every action maximized killing efficiency. The gladiators, trained for sport, were facing a warrior trained for war. The difference was becoming horrifically clear. Ragnar didn't fight like a gladiator. He fought like a general, using the arena's architecture for tactical advantage, turning entertainment devices into weapons, transforming spectacle space into battlefield terrain. The Romans had created their arena for individual combat entertainment. Ragnar was fighting a war against 50 enemies, using every advantage the space provided, every weapon available, every tactical opportunity. The entertainment was becoming education. Roman citizens were learning what real warfare looked like. Ragnar established a killing rhythm that turned combat into deadly dance. Each movement flowed into the next. Each death positioned him for the following kill. Each tactical decision maximized his strategic advantage. The gladiators, trained to fight individuals or small groups, couldn't adapt to warfare tactics applied to arena combat. Their sport-based thinking was inadequate against military genius applied to personal violence. Bodies began accumulating around the Viking warrior, each death more brutal than the last. The Roman crowd's bloodlust transformed into horror as they watched their greatest gladiators being systematically destroyed. This wasn't entertainment. This was butchery performed by someone who understood violence at a level they had never imagined. What had begun as spectacle became nightmare. Citizens who had come for amusement found themselves witnessing their worst fears about barbarian warfare made manifest. The screams of delight became screams of terror. Ragnar demonstrated mastery of every weapon the arena provided. Gladius, spear, net, trident, shield. Each implement became lethal in his hands. Each tool served his tactical objectives. Each weapon enhanced his killing capability. The gladiators, specialists in single combat styles, faced a warrior who had mastered every form of violence their civilization could imagine. Their narrow expertise proved inadequate against comprehensive military education. Ragnar wasn't just fighting, he was teaching a masterclass in warfare. The Viking warrior used every feature of the Colosseum as a weapon. Trapdoors became tactical advantages. Rising platforms provided elevation for attacks. Mechanical devices were turned against their operators. What the Romans had built for entertainment, Ragnar transformed into instruments of war. Their spectacle architecture became his battlefield, their amusement devices, his tactical assets. The arena that was designed to kill gladiators was being used to kill gladiators, just not in the way Romans had intended. The surviving gladiators began to understand they faced something beyond their training, beyond their experience, beyond their comprehension. This wasn't arena combat. This was warfare personified. Some tried to coordinate attacks, others attempted individual duels. A few hoped for mercy. None of these approaches proved effective against a warrior who had spent his life perfecting the art of killing. Professional respect replaced arrogant confidence as they realized they were fighting a legend. Emperor Lothar watched his perfect spectacle transform into disaster. The gladiators who represented Roman superiority were being destroyed by a single barbarian warrior who made their training look like children's games. The emperor's confidence crumbled as he realized his prize entertainment was becoming propaganda for barbarian superiority. Every gladiator death demonstrated that Roman civilization couldn't match barbarian warfare. His triumph was becoming his humiliation, broadcast to 60,000 citizens. 20 gladiators remained, their confidence shattered, their formations broken, their tactical options exhausted. They faced a warrior who had transformed their arena into a slaughterhouse, their sport into war, their entertainment into education. These final fighters tried every combination they knew: coordinated attacks, individual challenges, defensive formations, offensive rushes. Nothing worked against Ragnar's comprehensive understanding of violence. The legendary Viking had become death itself, moving through their ranks like a supernatural force. Ragnar's berserker fury reached supernatural levels. His blonde hair flew wild with combat motion. His ice blue eyes blazed with killing light. His massive frame moved with speed that defied physics. This was Viking warfare at its most primal. Not sport, not entertainment, not spectacle, but pure, undiluted violence applied with tactical genius and berserker fury. The Romans were witnessing the essence of northern warfare, concentrated into personal combat. Each of the remaining gladiators died differently, each death demonstrating another aspect of Ragnar's tactical genius. Some fell to sword work, others to spear technique, several to bare-handed combat, a few to improvised weapons. The variety of killing methods showed that this wasn't random violence. This was comprehensive warfare knowledge applied to individual combat, military education demonstrated through personal lethality. Every death was a lesson in Viking tactical thinking. 60,000 Roman citizens experienced collective psychological breakdown as they watched their beliefs about Roman superiority being systematically destroyed. Their greatest gladiators were being killed like animals by a single barbarian warrior. The crowd that had come for entertainment was receiving education, brutal, unforgiving education about the reality of barbarian warfare versus Roman sport. Their bloodlust transformed into terror as they realized they were watching their civilization being symbolically destroyed. The last 5 gladiators understood they faced death at the hands of something beyond their comprehension. These professional killers, veterans of hundreds of arena battles, recognized superior force when they encountered it. Some faced death with dignity, others with desperation, all with the knowledge that they were dying at the hands of a warrior who had redefined their understanding of combat. Their sport had become his war, and war always defeated sport. When the last gladiator fell, supernatural silence descended on the Colosseum. 49 professional killers lay dead around a single Viking warrior who stood unmarked, uninjured, victorious in a manner that defied Roman understanding. Ragnar Lothbrok had transformed Rome's greatest entertainment into their worst nightmare, their spectacle into their terror, their strength into their weakness. The impossible had become inevitable through superior warfare applied to arena combat. Standing amid the carnage of 49 dead gladiators, Ragnar Lothbrok raised his bloodied sword and addressed the stunned crowd. His voice, amplified by the arena's acoustics, carried to every corner of the Colosseum. "Romans!" he shouted, his ice-blue eyes blazing with triumph. "You came to see a barbarian die. Instead, you've seen your greatest warriors fall to superior skill. Your empire is built on the backs of slaves, but slaves can learn to fight." The crowd sat in stunned silence, processing words that challenged everything they believed about Roman superiority. Below the arena, in the gladiator barracks and slave quarters, Ragnar's words spread like wildfire. Hundreds of enslaved fighters who had witnessed the massacre understood they had seen something unprecedented, a single warrior destroying the system that oppressed them. Germanic tribes, Gauls, Britons, Thracians, Africans, slaves from across the empire recognized that if one Viking could kill 50 gladiators, organized slaves could challenge Roman authority itself. The spark of rebellion ignited in hearts that had known only servitude. Word of Ragnar's arena massacre spread through Rome's vast slave networks faster than imperial messengers could carry official reports. Kitchen slaves, construction workers, household servants, field hands all heard the story of the Viking who had humiliated Rome's greatest warriors. The psychological impact was devastating to Roman authority. If their finest gladiators couldn't defeat a single barbarian, how could their civilization claim superiority over the peoples they had enslaved? Revolutionary ideas began circulating in whispered conversations across the empire. Emperor Lothar faced a crisis that threatened the foundation of Roman authority. The gladiatorial system that demonstrated Roman superiority had been destroyed by a single barbarian warrior, and news of this defeat was spreading rapidly throughout the empire. Desperate to contain the damage, the emperor ordered Ragnar's immediate execution and imposed information blackouts, but it was too late. The story had already escaped, carried by slaves, merchants, and citizens who had witnessed the impossible. The empire's strength had been revealed as weakness, broadcast to the world. That night, as Rome slept fitfully after witnessing their greatest spectacle become their worst nightmare, Ragnar led a massive slave rebellion out of the city. Hundreds of gladiators, servants, and workers followed the Viking warrior who had proven that Roman authority could be challenged. The man who had entered the arena as entertainment left as a liberator, leading an army of former slaves toward freedom. The spectacle designed to demonstrate Roman superiority had instead sparked the largest slave rebellion in imperial history. Ragnar's arena massacre had become the catalyst for revolution. The psychological damage to Roman authority proved more devastating than any military defeat. Citizens across the empire heard how their greatest gladiators had been slaughtered by a single barbarian, and their confidence in Roman superiority crumbled. The gladiatorial system, designed to demonstrate civilization's triumph over barbarism, had instead proven the opposite. The spectacle meant to entertain had educated, and the education was terrifying. Across the Roman Empire, enslaved peoples found inspiration in Ragnar's arena triumph. The story spread from Britain to Africa, from Spain to Asia Minor, carrying the revolutionary message that Roman authority could be challenged and defeated. Local rebellions erupted throughout the empire as slaves remembered that they outnumbered their masters, that they had been warriors before they were servants, that freedom was possible. Ragnar Lothbrok's arena massacre became the stuff of legend throughout the known world. The story grew with each telling. One Viking warrior destroying 50 Roman gladiators, liberating hundreds of slaves, challenging an empire's authority through personal combat. The arena designed to create Roman legends had instead created a barbarian legend that would outlive the empire itself. The rebellion that began with Ragnar's arena massacre contributed to the social tensions that would eventually tear the Roman Empire apart. The psychological demonstration that Roman authority could be challenged by superior warriors inspired resistance movements across the known world. What began as entertainment became education. What started as spectacle became revolution. What was intended as strength became the revelation of weakness. From the blood-soaked sand of the Colosseum emerged a truth that would echo through history. Individual excellence could overcome systematic oppression, warrior skill could challenge imperial authority, and barbarian courage could defeat civilized spectacle. Ragnar Lothbrok had entered the arena as a captive and left as a liberator. His gladiator massacre became proof that no system of oppression was invincible against superior warriors fighting for freedom. In the halls of Valhalla, even the gods acknowledged the perfect warrior who had turned entertainment into revolution, spectacle into liberation, and personal combat into the catalyst for historical change. The arena that was built to kill gladiators had indeed killed gladiators, just not in the way Rome intended.